My name is Wenwen Zhou. We are pleased to welcome back our UWest alum, Dr. Laura Thuy-Loan Nguyen, to share with us her recent published book, Trúc Lâm Buddhism in Vietnam, Its History, Development, and Legacy. Dr. Nguyen's work chronicles the history, revival, and globalization of Trúc Lâm Buddhism. In the 13th century, Kim monk Trần Nhân Tông founded the Trúc Lâm Thiền sect that flourished during the Golden Age in Vietnamese Buddhist history. Yet, the Trúc Lâm sect faded over the following centuries, and the Thiền Buddhism in Vietnam, for the most part, disappeared. Until the late 20th century, Thích Thanh Từ, a Pure Land monk, called for a restoration of Trúc Lâm Thiền Buddhism. Through existing literature and extensive on-site fieldwork, Dr. Nguyen's research analyzes the history, revitalization, and modern reforms of this forgotten Buddhist sect. Dr. Nguyen received her PhD in religious studies from the University of the West in 2019. Her research interests are Buddhism in Vietnam, Vietnamese Buddhism in America, and Buddhist modernism. Her contribution to research on maritime Buddhism in the Oc El port in Funan earned her the prestigious President's Award at University of the West. So the lecture will proceed with Dr. Nguyen's 40-minute presentation and followed by a Q&A session. Please feel free to use the chat box to submit your question at any time during this event. And I will address these questions to Dr. Nguyen after she finishes her speech. And one more thing to ask you, if you didn't do so yet, please mute your microphone. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Laura Thuy-Loan Nguyen.
Thank you, Zen. Good evening. Thank you all. Thank you very much all for coming today. First, let me share my slide, okay? Let me see here. I want to do
slideshow.
Oh yeah, I want to do slideshow, but I don't know where the button is.
On the up left corner, the second symbol. Next right. Okay.
This one?
No. The up left. Up left.
Mm-hmm.
Can you move your cursor? No. Next one.
Okay, this one.
Next left. The one in next. Come up.
Here.
Up. Yeah, this one. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's better. Oh. Oh, I don't know.
You can find the zoom in on the right bottom corner. Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah, that's better. First, thank you, Dr. Tar, President of University of the West. Dr. Iwamura, Chief Academic Officer, and Dr. Guo, Director of the ISHB, for giving me the opportunity to talk about my book today. When I was a doctoral student, meditation was such a big part of my life. That interest led me to renowned meditation masters in Vietnam. And there I came across Trúc Lâm Sect. After focusing on that sect for my dissertation, I eventually restyled my findings into what is now the book published by Cambridge scholars. The book investigates the 13th century Buddhist sect in Vietnam that marked the golden age of Vietnamese Buddhism. Trúc Lâm doctrine was developed by King Trần Nhân Tông during the period of peace and prosperity that followed two Mongol invasions, which included Vietnam's final victory in 1288. In 1293, at 35 years old, King Trần Nhân Tông ceded the throne to his son. A few years later, he dedicated himself to the practice of the 12 ascetical dharma virtues on Yên Tử Mountain, where Trúc Lâm sect originated. The sect flourished under 3 patriarchs and produced many renowned Thiền masters before eventually dying out. Although Trúc Lâm Thiền sect is believed to be the first Vietnamese branded meditation sect, Thiền Buddhism in Vietnam, for the most part, disappeared until its revival in the 20th century by Thích Thanh Từ. Thiền is a Vietnamese term for Zen or Chen. Here are images of some 13th century Trúc Lâm monasteries built in North Vietnam during its inaugural years. The photo shows the gate to Yên Tử Mountain, where Trúc Lâm sect originated. There are many Trúc Lâm temples and centers on Yên Tử Mountain. Many of these original monasteries have since been remodeled. And here is one of Trần Nhân Tong's stupas on Yên Tử Mountain. All his teachings and practices were carefully chosen and translated for analysis in the book. In the late 1960s, accomplished monk Thích Thanh Từ led the Sect's revival movement, ultimately garnering the support of thousands of monks and nuns, as well as a large community of lay followers in Vietnam and abroad. Thích Thanh Từ was born in 1924 in South Vietnam. He was ordained at 25 into Pure Land. Thích Thanh Từ had learned and practiced Pure Land for 13 years and served as a key administrators and lecturers in the Vietnamese Buddhist education system. He left his original lineage and resigned from all his positions in search of a different life. In 1968, he became a mountain monk by building himself a hut on a mountainside. In that hut, he found the way and began the effort of reviving Thiền Buddhism. Here is a 1967 photo of revivalist Thích Thanh Từ in front of his hut. Here are more current photos of him. I met him in 2017 on my first visit to Trúc Lâm headquarters. He is still alive. Up until this revival, Vietnam had been predominated by Pure Land and tantric traditions. Thiền Buddhism had been forgotten for many centuries, even by the Vietnamese monastic community. 100 Thiền monasteries were built on this movement. There are quite a few Pure Land temples joined the Thiền revival movement and donated some of their centers to the Trúc Lâm system, which were then converted into Trúc Lâm monasteries. Here are images of some of today's Trúc Lâm monasteries. Teachings of revivalist Thích Thanh Từ have been translated for analysis to compare to the original practices and to investigate the possible influence of Western forces. I will talk about Western forces later. The interest part now is how I conducted my field work. The research data builds upon published primary sources and face-to-face interviews conducted with present-day long-term Trúc Lâm insiders, both monastic and lay people, in addition to my direct observation. When my dissertation proposal was approved, I blend my methods of data collection. I drove to a nearby Trúc Lâm monastery in California to inquire about contacting Trúc Lâm headquarters in Vietnam. Trúc Lâm headquarters is located at Thường Chiếu Monastery, and is a picture on the cover of my book, and is where revivalist Thích Thanh Từ lives. The photo was sent to me by the assistant to the abbot at Thường Chiếu. On the left-hand side, in the left side here, is the farmland where in 1974 construction of Thường Chiếu began. And on the left side, photos I took of Thường Chiếu 2017. This site is also where I submitted the English Vietnamese research documentation proposal to Trúc Lâm executive board for formal review and consideration. Though University of the West IRB approved all interview questions, fact-finding interviews were conducted in Vietnamese at each participant's respective monastery. Another challenge I faced was careful, unbiased translation of the approved questions from English to Vietnamese. This task was vital to keeping the questions open-ended and receiving honest feedback. Interview questions focused on elements of practice the participants believed were part of the Trúc Lâm tradition. Each interview session was audio recorded, though I also took handwritten notes. Upon receipt of the list of recommended participants, I established that they were affiliated with the Trúc Lâm Thiền sect as either monastic or lay followers. Then I built my research sample by contacting each person and requesting a one-on-one meeting. From late 2017 to late 2018, I traveled to Vietnam twice on fact-finding missions, conducting face-to-face interviews with the sects, monastics, and lay followers. I visited official 5 Trúc Lâm monasteries in Vietnam and 3 Trúc Lâm centers in the United States to interview monastics and lay participants for this project. My sister and I just visit Đại Đăng Monastery last Friday to say hello to the abbot I interviewed there. We found out last Saturday morning that he passed away. For the purpose of confidentiality and impartiality, in each report of a participant, I referenced him or her by pseudonym with the title Venerable or Lay Person, such as Venerable Lotus, a lay person flower. I began each interview with a simple introduction and description of my intent while reassuring protection of confidentiality of all data provided by the participant, that the interviewed would be audio recorded, and that participation was voluntary. I handed each participant a consent form to sign, then a list of the questions to review. The study presents a discussion of data gathered during my field work and analysis of the data. This data I compiled from direct observation. I visited more monasteries for purpose of site observation. Photographs I took are in the book during my visits to the Sect facilities. The research was conducted using multiple data collection techniques, most of which were face-to-face interviews with each follower at his or her monastery. Site observations during these face-to-face interviews contributed more information to the data pool. Through site observations in Vietnam and the United States, I was able to glimpse artifacts signifying the contemporary form of Trúc Lâm. Other sources of data came from informal, short, unrecorded conversations with other Trúc Lâm followers. 20th century Trúc Lâm is considered a new Buddhist movement in Vietnam. Its development was a major focus of this project. My research investigates the current state of modernity, globalization, and their influence on religion and new religious movements, including Buddhist modernism, and 13th century and teachings and practice of 13th century Trúc Lâm, which Thích Thanh Từ movement attempted to revive. What are modernity and globalization? Modernity is a process that society constantly renews itself to relieve the tension between varying dynamics. Its emphasis is on the 20th century. After World War II, access to digital communicative technologies produced a concept of globalization, a sense of one common social environment experienced by all people on earth, but in real time. In my discussion of Buddhist modernism, I shed light on how the contemporary forces of modernity and globalization have influenced religions. They caused tremendous changes in Western society after the Industrial Revolution, and especially after World War II. Traditional religions were forced to ease up on the symbolic boundaries of their beliefs, and ultimately resulting in the birth of new religions. When Buddhist modernism emerged, globalized Buddhist reforms followed, which challenged some of the fundamental principles of the existing tradition. In my book, I limit the scope of my analysis to the newly revived Trúc Lâm sect and whether it has been influenced by that globalized force. I studied the differences in teaching and practices between the original and current versions of the sect. One of the most difficult tasks I faced was translating Thiền teachings and verses from Vietnamese into English. Primary sources such as doctrines from King Trần Nhân Tông and revivalist Thích Thanh Từ also required my precise, impartial translation. Since those documents came from awakened masters, And since I am still a learner in search of the Dharma gates in my daily meditation practice, their meaning and intent as presented in the translation reflect my best effort. Wise words provided by some senior Trúc Lâm monastics during my visits to the Sect facilities, assisting in enlightening my understanding. The book derived from my dissertation. After earning my PhD, Cambridge Scholar Publishing sent me about 20 pages of instruction on how to revise my dissertation into a book. Some revisions were provided to fit a book structure and also to make the information more suitable to a general audience, such as shorten the title of the project, rearranging some chapters, restructuring some sections, reparaphrasing some quotation to make them less complex. Those revisions took me 18 months to implement because Cambridge Scholars Publishing is primarily a scholarly publisher. They market their books to universities and academic libraries globally. To help them market my book, Cambridge asked me to describe the new perspective my book contributed to the field. I was also asked to provide names of published books about similar topics and how each one differed from mine. In addition,
about the author.
Among many other requests, Cambridge instructed that I find a list conferences, events, symposia, schools, and specific courses that might find my book interesting or useful. Though a difficult journey with many challenges, it has been an honor to shed light on what I found to be the first Vietnamese branded meditation sect. Thiền in Vietnam remains mostly unexplored. King monk Trần Nhân Tông was an accomplished master from the 13th century, but there has been little study on him and his Thiền contribution. My dissertation is only about a small part of his life. Thank you so much for your time and attention today.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen, for introducing your research to us. And so now it's the question Q&A time. Anyone, if you have a question, feel free to either use the raise hand function or type it in the chat box.
Before I answer the questions, I don't know if Dr. Lancaster here.
I believe so.
No. How about Dr. Lee?
Dr. Lancaster is here.
I'm here, Laura.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Lee.
Congratulations.
I would like to introduce you to Dr. Lee, a member of my dissertation committee and also one of my endorsers for my book. He initially connected me to Cambridge scholars. Without him, my book would not exist.
Hi, I'm sorry. My son just came home from swimming. Congratulations, Laura. Laura's book is groundbreaking. That is the first book of its kind on this topic in English, as well as being a full-length study. I'm proud of Laura's accomplishment. It takes a lot of work and willingness to revise her dissertation into a publishable book. It was my pleasure and honor to play a part in making Laura's dreams of publishing a book come true. It was her ambition, or it is her ambition, her diligence and her tenacity that has resulted in this book. It is not an easy process, and I know from experience the overwhelming feeling of getting work back full of comments and recommended revisions. It's just pretty overwhelming. But Laura's humility and sincerity allowed her to see the constructive criticism as just that. And the byproduct is a wonderfully written book filled with simple yet poetic prose that will be in university libraries around the world, and a starting point for anyone interested in Vietnamese Buddhism, in particular, modern Vietnamese mindfulness movements. As a scholar practitioner, Laura's book is an example of the movement in religious studies and Buddhist studies that bridges the divide between insider and outsider, which surprisingly 2 decades ago was a big debate regarding issues of objectivity. We know now that complete objectivity is not even possible. So congratulations, Laura. Your hard work all these years have turned into a beautiful fruit that will serve students, scholars, and most important of all, the Buddha Dharma for many years to come.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
I'm also here.
Oh, hi, Dr. Lancaster. I would like to introduce you to Dr. Lancaster, a member of my dissertation committee, and also one of my endorsers for my book. Without Dr. Lancaster, my dissertation would not exist. Thank you, Dr. Lancaster.
Well, thank you, Laura. I agree with Jonathan. I think this is a really a great accomplishment on your part. I feel that I've been fortunate to have watched you as you entered this process, when you began your more academic study with us in religious studies at UWest. And I was delighted to go with you on one of your trips to Vietnam to visit some of these temples. And I understand that what you have done is to recognize that this movement even existed, because it's very hard otherwise to find any information about it. But when you introduced it to me and we went to some of these temples and they were filled with people, and the energy and the impact that one felt from them, I could see why you made your choice. I congratulate you. It's been a great journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Thank you, Dr. Lancaster. Dr. Lancaster has his lecture every month. If everybody wants to listen from him, his experience of 36 years with Berkeley in religious study. So if you want to attend his lecture, please do every month. And Dr. Iwamura, I would like you to say something too. It's my chair dissertation committee. Dr. Iwamura.
Thank you, Laura. I apologize that I'm not going to be on screen because I'm actually in the middle of downtown LA driving home, but I wouldn't miss this for the world. So I'm so pleased. It has been a wonderful experience to watch you grow as a scholar, to submit a wonderful dissertation that is now a wonderful book. And I should offer, in addition to what Dr. Lee and Dr. Lancaster have already talked about, that really the study of Vietnamese Buddhism is really in its infancy. And so if you track the development of Buddhist studies, it started with studies of Indian Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism, and then you saw the development of studies on Korean Buddhism, actually pioneered by Dr. Lancaster. But really, Laura is a pioneer because the field of Vietnamese Buddhism, especially in Western scholarship, is new. So thank you for being a pioneer, Laura, especially in relation to bringing to light the Trúc Lâm Sect. It's a great contribution, and it's been an honor to work with you.
Thank you, Dr. Iwamura. So now I can take the questions.
Okay, thank you. So we have a question in the chat box from, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name, Thor or Thor. Would you like to ask yourself, or I can read the question?
You want me to read from chat here?
Oh, I can read it. So the question
okay.
is, would you please talk a bit about the Trúc Lâm Thien's practice techniques?
The Thích Thanh Từ teachings and practice are carefully chosen and translated and analyzed in my book. So please, if you want to read, please read from the book, because it's a very, very long to say that. But one thing I would like to tell you that his Trúc Lâm has been influenced by Western forces, according to my research.
Okay, thank you. And Venerable Wen Hugh, you have a question? Oh, you may need to, yeah.
Yes. Congratulations, Laura, for your book.
Hi, Venerable. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. I'm also working on Vietnamese Buddhism, and I'm really I'm really admire your effort, and the book is I haven't had a chance to read the book, but I have many chance to read your dissertation, and it's really good to me. And but today I would like to ask only one question. Like we know the concept of nationalism very important in Vietnamese Buddhist community, right? So I would like you to say something about it, like how nationalism influence in the Trúc Lâm Thiền sect in the 13th century, and how it's influence in the revival movement of Venerable Thích Thanh Từ in the 20th century. So because that somehow shaped the understanding of Vietnamese Buddhism or a Vietnamese religious identity. So could you please tell more about it? So
Sure. Okay. Like I just said, all the teachings and practice from revivalist Thích Thanh Từ have chosen and translated in my book. However, to answer your question, short and easy for people to understand, based on my research, the rational light of current Trúc Lâm appears to align with Agnes Heller's argument on modernity, that everything is open to query and testing, that everything is subject to rational scrutiny and refuted by argument. One example of this alignment is the sect specific promotion of gender equality in its preaching and practice. In his unlearned wisdom, here is one example. His teaching has been influenced by Western forces. In his unlearned wisdom, sermon Thích Thanh Từ stresses women's equality capacity for attaining unlearned wisdom. The female may differ from males in shape or form, but the capacity for unlearned wisdom is an essential element of Thiền Buddhism. Based on Trúc Lâm official website and data collected during my site observation, the current Trúc Lâm sect has recorded more than 20 nunneries with around 1,000 nuns in residence. The rest you can read in my book, because I just tell you one example, because Buddha said in the sutra, but nobody said about that except revivalist Thích Thanh Từ. Thank you.
thank you so much. May I have another question? So
Sure.
yes, very short. Like some days ago, like the abbot of Trúc Lâm Đại Đăng monastery passed away. So he's the head leader of the Trúc Lâm Thiền sect in America, I believe. So with that loss, and also now Venerable Thích Thanh Từ also in his very own age. So I don't know, like how you can see the future of the Trúc Lâm Thiền sect, because anyway, the revival movement is quite a very popular in the 20th century, but now we turn into the 21st century, so things change, and you know, the leader, they in their own age, or we lost some people. So how do you think about the the future of the Trúc Lâm Thiền sect?
Thank you for your question. That's a very interesting question. However, it's out of my scope from my book because I don't research about the future. Sorry, but like I told, on last Friday, my sister and I went there to say hello and to him and show him the book. Because I interviewed him in the book, but on Saturday morning we found out that he passed away. Thank you, Venerable. I'm sorry I cannot answer that question because it was out of scope of my research.
So before I proceed to the next question, there's a follow-up question from Tor about the practicing techniques of Trúc Lâm Thiền sect. And he asks if you could give us like quick summary of the techniques. Don't need to go to details.
You mean about the book?
About the Trúc Lâm Thiền practice techniques.
Thích Thanh Từ has a method to teach. One of them I can tell is he doesn't teach koan. I think that we cannot say shortly, but you can read from my book. I translated and analyzed every step he teach to compare to the original Trúc Lâm version.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question from Pu Quan Pong. Sorry if I mispronounced the name. So the question is, you mentioned Buddhism in Vietnam forgotten about Thiền, but in most, if not all Mahayana temples in Vietnam has Bodhidharma statue in the main shrine in the back of the Buddha hall, and also have a meditation section in every evening during their summer retreat.
Let me read his question in chat box here. Okay. According to my research, they said Thiền still alive during many centuries, but according to my research, I don't see any Thiền practice except from Pure Land and Tantric. They are chanting, they are do something ritual, but they don't have any Thiền sect in Vietnam until its revival by Thích Thanh Từ.
Excuse me. So basically, because I think it's the question is kind of interesting too. So is that they have the statues, but they don't practice or meditation practices, but it's not really like the Thiền practice of Trúc Lâm Buddhist sect.
I don't think so.
Hi, Laura.
Yeah, hi, Thai. Hi, Venerable.
Yeah. Can I follow up?
Maybe you can,
your
you can.
explanation?
Maybe you can explain that, because I know that you read about Trúc Lâm too.
Yeah. I think like they have different sects of Thiền, like Vietnamese Zen. So they have Liu Wang school. So it's like a little bit different from Trúc Lâm school, but also like originally from the Liu Wang school, originally from China. So like they during the 17th century, also one sect we call it Lingji school from China also spread to Vietnam. And in the northern of Vietnam, we also have a different Thiền sect like Chao Tông, Tao Dong. Yeah, but it's not like dominating like Trúc Lâm school in like the last century. Yeah, so you can say like the Trúc Lâm school Thiền like forgotten in Vietnam for many centuries, but not like Thiền in general. So people probably like argue about that.
Yeah, Thiền in Vietnam is Thiền in Vietnam is hard to say, but accept revival Thiền sect from Trúc Lâm. We have a few sects in Vietnam, but they are not popular, they are not spread, but just small temple, but not really sect. Vietnamese people still call Thiền, but I don't think they practice like a sect.
Okay, thank you for your explanations. And our next question is from Antu. What is the Trúc Lâm Thiền now compared with before?
Let me see here. Just wait 1 second. Thiền, okay, let me see if I can. Okay. What I actually studied were the differences in the teachings and practices between the original and current version of the sect. I translated and analyzed the teachings of revivalist Thích Thanh Từ to compare the original and current practices, and also investigate the possible influence of Western forces. To provide one example, Thích Thanh Từ teaching do not include koan, means công án, which is encounter dialogue, but instead replaced the secretive koan practice with a self-explanatory 4-path meditation methods. Was this part of Western influence? The answer is in my book.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Ko? Dr. Ko?
Hi, Laura. Thank you. You offer your new book, and based on the University of the West, we are pretty proud of your production. Your dissertation already published and make the your research is public and in the academic community. We are proud of you. And I remember in your lecture, you talk about some issue about the translation. I believe that is a kind of the very critical if any student is work on this kind of the transnature, transcultural research. So, do you have any example in your mind now? Say what's really the question about the translation, a typical translation when you're doing your research, and how you solve it? Can you remember anything and provide a few examples so we can learn from your experience?
Like I said before, translation is a hard part because, you know, I am just a learner from meditation, but all the teachings and practices from the an accomplished masters. So it's really hard. Another thing I can think of from my research is that you translation all the practice from participants. You have to be unbiased to translate. You cannot translate, you know, what you think, but you have to translate what the participants to tell you. So that is the two hard part. One is from accomplished masters teachings, and another you have to be unbiased to translate whatever you interview, you heard.
Yes, Laura, you mentioned a very critical challenges for like our research. Like you say, you interview the practitioner, and they mention their feeling and their experience, and using the Vietnamese native language probably is very easier, but translate into English is very hard, especially talk about the religious experience. And I agree with you about this question. So thank you, and I believe you're in your book, and we should see your effort try to make sense to the English reader about the experience raised from the practitioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cole. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about my book today. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay, thank you. So next, I'd like to invite Dr. Shakya, who is the Department Chair of Religious Studies at University of the West. I'd like to invite Dr. Shakya to say some words.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Shakya. How are you? Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to talk about my book today.
Thank you. So on behalf of Department of Religious Study of University of West, I would like to congratulate you on the publication of your first book. And I know, it's very monumental task to defend your dissertation in 2019 and publish in 2000. That's like a great achievement you have done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Truly an inspiration for everybody, all PhD students of University of West. So I just want to wish you luck in your future endeavor, and please keep helping Dr. Lancaster.
Yeah, I think that maybe one day I will go back to you for Pali, because I remember I took 4 classes Pali with you and
Yes.
translate all the hard sutras to get A.
You're a good student.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you again for your
Thank you.
We learn a lot from you. Thank you. And thank you, Susan and Wan for organizing the event.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, I'd like to say thank you all for coming today, and thank you, Dr. Nguyen, for sharing your research with us today. And thanks again, everyone, and take care.
Thank you very much for all for coming today. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Laura.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Thank you, chị. Bye bye.
Thank you, Dr. Bak. Thank you, Dr. Lancaster.
Thank you, and look forward to what your next research will be and your next book.
With you, maybe you can show me.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. Thank you.
And thank you, Nguyen, for presiding today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Wen.
My pleasure.
Okay, thank you, Laura, again, and wish we can have more talk about your research. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dr. Guo.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.